Today, we're going to boldly go where most media buyers have not gone before. There's one area of the Google ecosystem that a lot of companies, even the biggest ones in the world, fail to ever unlock additional growth because they don't understand the strategies that actually work. And now what I'm talking about are YouTube ads, guys. And if you're anything like me, you've talked to people about YouTube ads and they've all said, well, YouTube ads just doesn't work. You just can't scale YouTube ads. And 9 times out of 10 for most companies, they fail at it. It just doesn't work for them. And the reason is threefold. And we're going to talk about that today. By the end of this video, you're going to have the tools to help you to scale YouTube ads profitably. So make sure you stick with me to the end because all 3 areas are critically important. Okay? So now, number 1 is, of course, your creative. And now, I know you've heard this before, but with YouTube, you have to understand something. Ad fatigue is a real thing, and the algorithm is going to respond very quickly in YouTube to how the user is responding to your ad. So the second you put an ad into the market that people do not respond well to, you're going to start having issues with your account, okay? Google's going to start increasing your CPM. When your CPM increases, your cost per click increases. And guess what? Now your CPA is a lot higher than it used to be. Now you're not profitable anymore and you can't scale. High CPMs generally just don't work, okay? So you need to keep your CPM down by having hard-hitting creative, but that's not the only thing. The other side of the coin is that creative obviously needs to convert well. Well, creative, you have to remember these things and you have to understand fundamentally how the algorithm is going to respond to your creative and how users are going to respond. You have to realize all the platform cares about is session duration and session engagement. The longer you keep somebody on the platform and the more you keep them engaging with different ads on the platform, the happier the platform is. So when the platform sees that someone views your ad and then immediately leaves and goes to TikTok instead, okay, that ad is going to fizzle out very quickly. At the end of the day, the North Star for the platform is, are you making the platform money? So you have to understand this and keep this in mind with every ad making for your business. So you need to balance making the platform happy and making your customers happy, okay? All right, so fundamentally, now that you understand this, you're gonna concentrate on the hook of the ad to get attention, and not just attention from anybody. The attention has to be from people who are in your market, that are in your avatar, that are in your segment, okay? There's really no point in getting a ton of attention from a bunch of people that are not going to buy your product or service. Now, it's okay to have a little bit of that because it helps to bump up the engagement of the ad. But ultimately, you want to get really strong engagement from the people who are going to actually buy from you because you're going to get that engagement and you're going to get that conversion. So what you're going to do, you're going to test ads and you're going to find hooks and then you're going to find bodies of that ad that work, okay? And ultimately, if you find the meat and potatoes of the ad with a good value proposition in the ad, with a good call to action in the ad, that really works, that you see that it scales pretty well for a while. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to start testing different hooks, okay? Because when you test different hooks, you're able to really extend the shelf life of what we call the back end of that ad, okay? So you really, when you're starting out with YouTube ads, you may not have that data of what works for your brand, but maybe you do. Because if you have it from another platform, don't discount repurposing video ads from other platforms. It amazes me how many brands never think about testing their top ad from, say, Meta ads into YouTube ads. Oh, well, it's different. It's not that different, guys. Like, I've been doing YouTube ads for a long time. Trust me. It's not as different as you think. If an ad works on Meta, it's not guaranteed to work on YouTube. It's not. But the likelihood is very strong. So, you could always start there if you have that library of ads that have converted well. Now, back to what I was talking about. you're going to test different hooks, okay? Because when you test a new hook, it's like, it feels like a new ad to the consumer, okay? And you're going to often, if you have good hooks, it's going to be like you're going to create a whole new winning ad, even though maybe 3/4 of that ad is the same ad that you've been running for the last 6 months, okay? So this really helps with execution of creating new ads. If you're a brand that's trying to spend like $1 million or $2 million or whatever, a lot of money per month in YouTube ads and made ads and things like that, you know, you don't have the time to constantly make totally new ads all the time. And you don't want to do that because you have data. Your data tells you what works. You want to examine that data and extrapolate that information, really study what is it about those top ads that worked, and then recreate that. Now, you may take pieces of the ad and iterate on that by adding new hooks or maybe playing with the body or playing with the call to action or whatever. There's no one size fits all thing here, guys, you know, but you're also going to want a portion of your spend going to new ideas, because the other side of this is you can get carried away with the whole repurposing thing too and never create new winning ideas. So you need to balance those two things, okay? I always advise my clients, you want to have about half of your time focused on those iterations and new hooks, and about half your time studying competitors or coming up with new offers or coming up with completely new creative ideas, okay? So that's the first thing, guys. Creative. You always have to be testing creative, and you have to do it in a way where the traffic is relatively evenly distributed across those creatives. And now you have to understand how Meta works and how YouTube ads work to be able to accomplish this, because if you just throw everything into the bucket, what the algorithm is going to do, it's just going to favor the ad that makes the platform the most money. And in some cases, you're not going to get the traffic you need to accurately test those different ads. So this goes back to the structure of the campaigns, which I'm going to talk about next, okay? So now that leads me to number 2, is the structure. Now, the funny thing about the platforms is this, and this is why I always say, do the opposite of what the platform tells you, because the platforms are going to tell you to consolidate everything. And if you know anything about marketing, you know that consolidation is completely against fundamentals of marketing. If you know anything about marketing, marketing is about segmentation. You're supposed to segment your users into different buckets and then market to those buckets in specific ways. Have the right message that's tailored to that bucket of demographic based on their needs, desires, and wants, right? You may have a completely different offer depending on the different buckets of users. But the platform would have you just throw everything into one bucket so they could just blow as much of your money as possible, and they hope that you're too stupid to notice it. So the next thing is structure, and what I've done over the years with clients is segment out of accounts. We'll segment everything. We'll segment devices. I've even segmented iPhones versus Androids, believe it or not. And you'll see a difference in how those convert. And you know, it's funny when you do things like that, you start to see, oh damn, looks like, why is nobody on iPhone converting? Oh, and we go back and we find out, the web developer never checked iPhones to see that there's a broken link on all iOS devices. Okay, so it's funny how media buying can cross over into tech sometimes. So anyway, we're not going to talk about that. I have that on other videos on the channel. But you're going to segment. You're going to segment so you have clear division in your data, so you know what's working. You know what audiences are working. You know what creative is working. You know what devices are working, geos are working, times of the day, whatever. You can get super creative with segmentation. Now, you can get carried away with this, but you want to segment, and you just have to watch it. Sometimes the system, without going down a huge rabbit hole, sometimes the system will kind of reject your efforts of segmentation, let's just say, because the algorithm doesn't like it. Okay, the algorithm doesn't like it, but this is what you have to do to be able to media buy effectively. Okay, so this is why I always say, again, like, just do the opposite of what the platforms tell you to do, because the platform will tell you to consolidate everything into one campaign, so you have no visibility on what's working. It's dumb. It's an IV place over here. Maybe I'll get an IV to rehydrate, increase my energy, detoxify the body. It's a good idea. Make sure you get an IV of media buying knowledge. That's what this channel is. It's like getting an IV of media buying knowledge. You could try to take it in pill form, but that won't be as effective. What you need is an IV, 20,000 milligrams of media buying knowledge, like getting 20 years of this, what's in my head, injected into your veins. So anyway, let's talk about the last leg of the stool here, guys. The last leg of the stool is this. Audiences, okay? Audiences. And this is another area that people just they don't get it. Here's the thing about YouTube ads. Like, again, if you fail in any of these three areas, your YouTube ads won't work. You cannot get away with bad creative. You cannot get away with like regular audiences. You cannot get away with the structure that the platform tells you to do. If you do any of those three things, your YouTube ads will fail. So for YouTube ads, they give you affinity audiences, in-market audiences, and then you can do custom audiences, okay? So the affinity audiences, don't work. I'm not talking about custom affinity audiences. I'm talking about the ones that Google has that you can just check off real quick because you're too lazy to create custom audiences, or your media buyer's too lazy or doesn't know how to do it. Affinity audiences don't work. They're very low intent. That's why they don't work, okay? So don't do those. In-markets can work. You have to test different in-markets. You can do a stack, put a bunch together, or you can do them in separate ad groups or even separate campaigns. All right. Then you have custom audiences where you're building audiences around different keywords or different URLs. Okay. So Google's going to say, based on the fact that this person has searched that keyword before, or maybe gone to a competitor's website or something like that, now you're creating more high intent audiences, and those can work really well. Okay. Those can work extremely well. And then obviously retargeting audiences can work extremely well as well. But there is a point at diminished returns on retargeting audiences. They're not going to scale like forever. Like, people think you could like just do a retargeting audience forever and it'll just scale it to infinity. And it doesn't work that way. There's a point where retargeting, like, people who have visited your website, you serve them 100 ads a day, eventually that gets annoying. That's why there's a limited amount of spend you can do for retargeting. Sometimes you get a really good ad and then it'll pop off and you can scale for a while. But just a forewarning to you about retargeting, all right? Do it, but don't think you're gonna like just all of a sudden do all retargeting and scale to $1 million a month, because it's not gonna happen with retargeting, okay? Put maybe 10% of your budget or 20% of your budget into retargeting, and maybe that'll be the case, okay? And this is part of the reason why campaigns like Performance Max, for example, not to go on a huge rabbit hole, that's why they will fail after a little while. Because as a brand, what you'll do, you'll set up the Performance Max or demand gen. Google will cannibalize on your previous users automatically, and they'll be like, oh, look, it's working so good, spend more budget. And then they rug pull you, basically are rug pulling you, because lo and behold, you didn't know that they're just cannibalizing your branded traffic, and they're not really giving you a lot of cold traffic. They're just, Performance Max is really good at catering to that warm traffic. if you have decent creative in there. Okay, so anyway, that's a little bonus thing. But anyway, guys, those are the three legs of the stool: your structure, your creative, and your audience targeting. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next one.